Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to Korean Atlanta Mentorship. So in this video, we're going to do another velocity banking with review with the emphasis on the order which you pay off your debts. Okay, so the emphasis on debt payoff order. Now, when I first learned velocity banking, it was always advertised to me as learn to pay off your mortgage in 5 to 10 years. Okay, now, me personally, I never advertise it that way, right? I never advertise it as something better than, let's say, extra payments to the mortgage. And the reason why is that I like to think of it as a debt payoff cash flow management strategy or philosophy, right? So, cash flow and debt management strategy. That's the way I like to think about it. And so, you have to think about the holistic picture rather than, oh, you can just pay off a mortgage in 5 to 10 years, right? Even though that's technically true, I feel like the way that really appeals to me is paying off the debt in a holistic manner. Okay, so we're going to review when you look at things holistically, why you need to pay off the mortgage last. Okay, so let's start off from the very beginning about what velocity banking is. All it is a debt payoff strategy using lines of credit as your main tool. Line of credit, right? So I have over $258,000 in lines of credit. Most of them credit cards. I got a $50,000 HELOC. I got a $15,000 personal line of credit. Again, your situation may vary, but one of the most important things that you have to know about getting lines of credit and banks is that banks don't lend money to people who need it, right? So if you're in a tight situation or bind and are looking at the strategy and are thinking, oh my goodness, this would be so great if I could just apply for a line of credit because I'm in a pinch or a financial pinch, too late because banks don't lend money to people who need it, which is why it's very important to get educated and learn about financial literacy. It's kind of like how you should learn how to drive a car or learn about driving a car before you actually step on the gas pedal, right? Which is ironically what we do in this country, but everything else, whether it's taxes, credit, financial management, people only want to learn once they've crashed the car in a metaphorical sense. Okay. So, in order to do velocity banking, it's only two things, right? We need a budget. Our budget is essentially our attack plan because the whole point of this is to get rid of our debt. And what we're going to do is list every single debt that we have, right? So here we have 3 credit cards, an auto loan, and a mortgage. And the whole point is once we've wiped out a debt, that's more cash flow. And then that helps us pay off the other debts faster. Okay. So, one of the things that we're going to do that is foreign to most Americans, and this person's really well off because $2,000 of savings a month. Oh my goodness, that's a good number of savings because most people are broke as a joke. In fact, I've had people email me where it's like I'm making, I don't know, 7 to 10 grand after tax a month, and I have nothing or something like that. They tell me that, right? But let's say you're making decent money, and what's going to happen? When we do velocity banking, we're going to do the exact opposite of what most Americans are trained to do. In fact, if you go to Dave Ramsey's, why did I call him Dave? Dave Ramsey's website, he's going to say something like, you should have 3 to 6 months of savings. Well, we're not going to do that because we're going to have zero savings. It's the exact opposite of what most Americans are trained to do. And what we're going to do is use our line of credit as the main tool. So let's imagine that we have, because we're a homeowner, we have access to maybe a $30,000 credit card based on the value of our home, right? So this isn't technically correct because it's not a credit card, it's a home equity line of credit. So let's imagine that we have access to a $30,000 home equity line of credit. Okay, kind of like a credit card, but it's kind of not, because along the line of credit is a financial tool where you can borrow money, pay it back, and use it over and over again. But there are different flavors. So credit card is technically a line of credit. Okay, it's technically a line of credit, but it doesn't work the same way as a home equity line of credit. Because with a home equity line of credit, I can use it to pay anything, including credit cards, student loans, but I can't do that with a credit card. Okay, now what we're gonna do is re-engineer our expenses, okay, so that we can increase what we call cash flow. So right now, this cash flow number, which is their income minus expenses, is going to be the same as the way we did it with their average American with their savings, right? Now, when we do velocity banking, there's absolutely no savings until our debts are paid off, right? Our new savings account is our line of credit, and the actual strategy is you put your entire paycheck into that line of credit and expenses out, and you rinse and repeat over and over again. Okay? Now, before we actually start implementing a strategy, let's take a look at the debt payoff order. And one of the easiest ways, so I've seen situations where people send me their budgets and they have like 14 or 15 debts, right? And if you have that many debts, it can be really overwhelming. Okay. So one of the easiest ways to figure out which debts you're going to pay off first, you could use the interest rate. So there's what we call the traditional debt payoff criteria, which is like you all look for the highest interest rate or the highest payment or lowest balance, but you can also use the cash flow index. Okay. So, well, all the cash flow index is a formula of the statement balance divided by the monthly payment. And so, what we're going to do is just calculate that formula. So, what's the balance right here? 6,000, right? Divided by the monthly payment. Okay. Same. We're going to do the same for all of these. And I'm going to go into more detail of what this means. So, this one is 6,000 divided by 195. This one is 8,000 divided by 260. Okay. This one is 22,000, $22,000 loan divided by 395.31. And then this one is 2,000 divided by 1,200. Okay. So this is the cash flow index number. And think of this as a ranking system. Okay. So the lower the number, that's the debt you want to pay off first. Okay. But another way you can think about this is how much bang do you get for your buck, regardless of your interest rate, right? Like this totally ignores the interest rate if you pay off the debt. So, for example, if I pay this $200,000 mortgage first, I only get $1,200 back. But if I pay this $22,000 auto loan off, I get about $400 back, right? So there's much more bang for your buck for paying off the auto loan than there is in the mortgage. That's what the cash flow index number is telling you. So if we take a look at this, this is the highest number, and in every single demonstration that I've ever done, the mortgage has always been the highest number. And the reason is that when you have a very long amortization time frame, so 30 years, that number is always going to be very low compared to the balance of the loan, right? That makes sense. If it doesn't, just always try, putting the numbers in a calculator. But let's say I put $200,000 loan, right? You see, we have a very low monthly payment, okay, compared to the amount. Now, if we stretch this out, now here's a crazy thing people don't realize. When you stretch out that loan, you actually pay more interest, but the monthly payment is lowered. So let's turn this into a 50-year loan. This is going to go down. This is going to go down, yet this will go up, right? So you see how that went down, but this number went up. And so that's 431, and let's change it back to 30. So it's 231. So that's why, right? That's why for the longer the length of the loan, it doesn't take up as much cash flow. And what we're trying to do is pay off all of our debts that take up as much cash flow as possible, which is these lower number cash flow index numbers, right? The lower number ones, and we want to pay off the highest level one or the highest number last, right? So this is why the mortgage is usually paid off last. Now, here's the thing. I think I've read that to never pay off the mortgage, and I don't necessarily agree with that. And let me tell you why. If I pay this $200,000 mortgage over 30 years, right, at a 6% interest rate, look at how much interest I'm paying. So I have to pay the loan and more in interest over the loan. So $231,000. So $431,000 in total it's like I'm paying double the house. You know what I mean? Like after 30 years, I thought I paid for a $200,000 house. Nope. I paid for a $431,000 house. Okay. So that's why I believe once these are paid off, you should pay this off too, right? If this is your last loan. But there's a debt, an order that you pay it off. And again, the cash flow index doesn't tell you the whole story, but I think it's a really great way to figure out which debts to pay off first. So now that we've kind of established or reviewed that, let's go ahead and use our home equity line of credit. And why don't we just do a simple debt transfer of these three credit cards? So that's $20,000 of credit card debt. 6 plus 6 is 12 plus 8 is 20. And let's just move all of this here, 20,000, okay, to that home equity line of credit. And then guess what happens, right? These three get paid off, right? Even though it's just a simple debt transfer, these three get paid off. And guess what happens here? Oh my goodness. This turns to zero. These three turn to zero. And then the cash flow goes up by 700 bucks. It's really powerful, 700 bucks, right? And so now what we do, the extra strategy is putting your entire paycheck into the line of credit, expenses out, and then after every month the balance is going to go down almost $3,000. So about 2,700 minus the interest, right? You take out the interest, and we're going to show you how to do that. So let's go here. Let's calculate the next month, and then the next month's balance, which is the previous month's balance plus the previous month's interest minus what would be our cash flow, which is 2704.69. Again, no savings. Savings not allowed. You know, if it were up to me and you did velocity banking in my country, I'd put you in jail for having savings. No, I'm just kidding. I want to do that. All right. So now we have our new balance, and then we just got to calculate the interest. So the interest in the line of credit is calculated off the average daily balance. So what we do is just take the average here as an estimate, multiply by 0.15, and then divide by 12, right? 0.15 is the interest rate. Get the monthly interest, divide by 12. All right. So now let's see how long it takes to pay all of this off. Okay. And then, whoa, 20 grand. Was it 20 grand? Oh my goodness. 12, 18. So 20 grand. Now what we got to do, right? Now what we got to do is just record this as a milestone. So we paid off these three credit cards in 8 months, right? So these three credit cards got paid off in 8 months. Oh my goodness. 8 months. I got to put in capital letters just to really emphasize 20K paid off. Oh my goodness. Look how easy that was. You ever see people freak out about like 10K of credit card debt? We paid off 20K in 8 months. And it was no sweat, right? I didn't sweat at all. Now, because the next lowest number of that cash flow index was the auto loan, then we just pay this off. And then we figure out, hey, after 8 months, what's the balance of the loan? So 22,000. And then let me go down here. So 3%. So $22,000, 3% at 5 years, right? And then, so now let's take a look here. 395.31, right? So now after 8 months, it's 19 grand. 19 grand. 19 grand. All right. So that's the current balance right now. And if we move this 19 grand to that line of credit, we might actually pay more interest, a little bit more, right? But we'll free up this $395 of cash flow. Now, if you're okay with paying just a little bit more interest, that's totally up to you. But I'll just show you how that works, okay? So let's just move this 19 grand to that line of credit. And then let's just go here. And what I mean by a little bit more interest, like you're going to pay a little bit more interest compared to either paying extra payments or doing something called chunky. But let's just not overcomplicate this for now. But let's move that 19 grand, okay? And then guess what happens? Oh my goodness. Now we have 3,100 in cash flow. Oh my goodness, that was so easy, right? So now let's see how long it takes to pay this off. So now we got to put 3,100 in cash flow right here. 3,100. Okay. And now what we do is just copy and paste. And So in 15 months, whew, we're completely debt free. Well, not completely. So 15 months, we're almost completely debt free except for the mortgage. And now we paid off 42K. 42K. Oh my goodness. It's what they would call in Seinfeld a Festivus miracle. A Festivus miracle. All right. So now we got the mortgage. So here's the thing. At this stage of your debt payoff, you don't even have to use a line of credit because here's the thing. You got 3,100 that potentially would just go to your savings account. And then once it hits your savings account, you could directly overpay your mortgage, right? You totally do that. Now, let me ask you this. Who actually does that? And why don't we not, you in general, tend to overpay loans? It's because if we overpay loans, we can't get that money back, right? Let's say you dump this whole entire 3,100 into that line, or I'm sorry, into that loan, that mortgage. Can you call the mortgage company, say, hey, ring, ring, I'm sorry, Mr. Mortgage Company. I don't know if anybody who actually addresses the mortgage company is Mr. Mortgage Company. I have a emergency, and I know I paid 3,100 over my monthly payment, and I kind of need maybe $200 back. Can you give it back to me? Nope, not going to do that. Not going to do that at all, right? So you could dump this into here, or what you can do again, make it easy to overpay by just transferring some of this into the line of credit, right? Maybe 6 to 10 grand, right? I would probably just do it in what we call $6,000 chunks. Okay. Now, luckily, we have a velocity banking calculator to help with all of this. So again, the mortgage is going to be the last debt that we pay off. Okay, because of that high cash flow index number. And it gets, because it has such a high cash flow index, it's going to take us the longest to pay off. But it's okay. Since we paid off all of these and we did it in the right order, we're maximizing our cash flow to pay off the mortgage. Hopefully that makes sense. And if it doesn't, don't listen to me. All right. So now, if we go here, so let's put in $200,000 at 30 years at 6%. Okay. 6%. Now we got to figure out at 15 months what the balance of this loan is. And take a look at this. All this interest compared to principal, right? 1,200, 999, 200, bam, 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 bam. All this interest. And then we are month 15. And her balance is 196. 196. 196. All that, I feel, what is that Thanos quote? All that work in something, something, no play, make homeowner go crazy. No, I'm just kidding. I don't even know what I'm talking about. All right. So 196. And then what we do is we have this velocity banking calculator that I got from Renatus, which is where I originally learned velocity banking from. And full disclosure, I actually am what they call an independent contracted marketer, meaning I sell their products for commission. So, all right, now let's go ahead and put that information in. $200,000 original balance. What's the current balance? 196,906.66. All right. Interest rate 6, and then the payment amount is not 1,200, but close to it. 1199.1. I got to be a little bit more accurate at that. So 1199.1, and then we're just going to move $6,000 to that line of credit, right? So what we're going to do is this will essentially be 190K. Move that to that 6K to the line of credit, and then just pay it off. So for example, again, this is like the poor man's version of velocity banking. If we didn't have that calculator, but we move $6,000 here. Whoopsie, 6000. Whoopsie. I'm so, maybe because I'm sleepy right now. And then you'll see that 6,000 pays off in 2 months, right? And we just rinse and repeat over and over again. So $6,000 in monthly income. How much is our expenses? Oh, whoop-de-doo, 1,700. All right, awesome. So you just put everything except for the loan you're trying to pay off. because the loan amount is calculated right here, so a little bit separately. And then, bam, 4.4 years to pay it off. And look how much interest you potentially could save, right? You can't say you save it for sure because interest is optional, but principal is not. All right, so if we went through that schedule, it would have been over $200,000 of interest. And I don't know if you've ever seen like those mortgage disclosure statements that you got to sign before or right when you go to closing. It's called the TIP, total interest paid. Um, the mortgage company would show you this number here, but nobody reads the paperwork they sign anyways, because who cares about that? You know what I'm saying? But I read it and I know that this is a ridiculous amount. And I don't mind paying the bank some money to borrow their money, like or at 20 grand to pay to borrow 200,000. I'm okay with that. But 216 grand to borrow 200,000? No way. No way, Jose. Or maybe I should say Jose. I'm just kidding. All right, so it's 4.4 years. 4.4 years. So let's go ahead and calculate this 15 divided by 12 plus 4.4. That's 5.65 years. 5.65 years, and we are debt free. Debt free. And that's 242K, right? So 242K. And so if we go down right here, 242K, and so you see the whole the whole point of this exercise is to maximize our cash flow. And if we pay off that mortgage first, we don't get enough cash flow. And it doesn't make sense, right? Regardless of the interest rate. Okay? Like, would you pay $200,000 to get 1,200 back, or $22,000 to get 395, or $6,000 to get 210? Right? $6,000 is a very minuscule amount to recover that 210. Whereas, who wants to pay $1,200? I'm sorry, $200,000 to get 1,200 back? That's why you got to think about the ratio of the payment versus the loan balance, right? All right. Well, this is creating Atlanta mentorship. I will create a new Google form if you want to join our group, but again, I'm a little bit lazy. In fact, I actually don't need to make any money off of doing this. I don't know why I do this, and maybe it's because I think of this YouTube channel as like kind of like my public service. But yeah. All right. Well, I'll let you all know when I have the next Google form ready to join the group. Other than that, have a great day, and we'll speak next time.